52 years since the Civil War ended. Today, the debate rages over Confederate monuments, street names, and schools named after Confederate leaders. One of the biggest battles is coming to a head. Should the name of J.E.B. Stuart High School in Falls Church be changed? The Fairfax County School Board could make a decision in a few weeks. In tonight's Special Assignment Unit report, Peggy Fox takes us to the front lines of the showdown.
J.E.B. Stuart was a Confederate general. He actually had an encampment very close to J.E.B. Stuart High School. That's why the school was named after him. Young guy, only 31 years old when he died. 150 years later, people are still fighting over this war. What was it about? Who was J.E.B. Stuart? Is it right to honor him with a school named after him? Or is that the wrong name to have? Is it the wrong history to remember? And it started last year when a student at the school said, you know, let's look into changing this name. The school board could have just taken a vote and said, we're going to change the name. But they wanted community involvement, so they appointed an ad hoc committee. The problem with that is that it is completely fractured. One side wants to change the name, one side wants to keep it, and they are not seeing eye to eye. You know, they can't even agree on the facts. Who was J.E.B. Stuart, you know? Was he a traitor or was he an American hero? So it was a community meeting at the high school last week, and several students got up to speak, and one girl is an African-American girl, and she got up and said that some people come up to her and say,
"Stop being an angry black girl." But I admit it, I am an angry black girl.
She said, you know what, I don't think I should have to go to this school with a name like J.E.B. Stuart. It should be more inclusive. She said, I don't think it's appropriate.
But the fact that he fought to continue the Confederacy, I believe that it's not something that we should honor by keeping the name.
That's one side. The other side says, look, there have been surveys done. Most of the community does not want a name change. Most of the students do not want a name change.
We're going to forget our history from this. History, it has to be remembered.
The interesting thing about J.E.B. Stuart High School is that it is one of the most diverse schools in the country. There's a large percentage of Hispanic kids. There's a large percentage of kids on free and reduced lunch. I think what's happening across the country has a huge impact. We are seeing statues come down in New Orleans. We're seeing the Robert E. Lee statue in Charlottesville.
That is a part of your history right there.
Huge controversy over that statue. The city council voted to take it down. We've seen votes in Alexandria to take down the Confederate soldier statue there.
I think you have to honor what happened. It's our history.
If you lived in Germany, would you have a Nazi soldier statue? It's got to go.
I think all this is going to have a huge effect on J.E.B. Stuart. We brought in two intellectuals. We brought in Dr. James Robertson.
Lee himself was opposed to secession. He abhorred slavery.
He is one of the most distinguished Civil War historians around. He's written 40 books on the subject.
You can't change history. You may love it, you may hate it, but you can't change it. And that's the effort being made today, to twist history.
It was twisted from Jump Street.
On the other hand, we brought in Dr. Jeremiah Floyd.
They thought that they had a right to continue slavery.
He's with the NAACP in Montgomery County, born and raised in Columbia, South Carolina, where the Confederate flag flew over the state capitol until 2 years ago, right after the horrible shooting in Charleston.
History was taught in the minds and the eyes of people who knowingly or not knowingly believed in white supremacy.
This is a man who wasn't even allowed to go to the University of South Carolina because of Jim Crow laws. And he said, you know, it wasn't out of the goodness of anybody's heart that the Confederate flag came down from the Capitol. It took this horrific incident for people to realize the Confederate flag is a symbol of hate. Dr. Jeremiah Floyd equates the Confederate flag with Confederate statues. He says they're the same thing. They symbolize white supremacy.
Personally, I think the monuments and those symbols should be removed.
Both of them agreed it's important to teach history and teach all of history.
The war settled once and for all the question of slavery. It settled once and for all who has sovereignty, which is ultimate power. Who has sovereignty, the states or the nation? Obviously, the nation. You can't bypass the Civil War. It's like a big mountain. No matter where you go, that shadow of that war and what it did. It's the bloodiest struggle in all of our history. Almost 1 million men will die.
They both actually came together and decided they really weren't very far apart. They both want to make sure history is told and that we learn about the people who made America what it is today. But we need to learn about all of it.
If you would like to hear more from the historians Peggy talked with, we have put their complete interviews on our WUSA 9 app and website. Just search Special Assignment Unit.
Plenty of